You know the whole debacle between H3H3 and, of course, Hasan Piker? Man, that really is the internet's version of Israel and Palestine. And even after the ceasefire has been signed in real life on the internet, the war rages on.
A better you starts today.
Hey, did you know that I've got a live seminar now? Well, you're gonna know, because these ads are just gonna pop up inadvertently in all of my videos from now on, but I think you should go. I think that it's going to be very good for you, because it's always good to go to an immersive environment where you're around fellow people that fully get it. And the best way to do that is to just come down to the first one. That's going to be on the 27th, and then it'll be going around the country. So stay tuned for me popping up and annoying you, just like I'm a Nescafe ad in the YouTube ad reel shorts. Honestly, wasn't it shocking to think that not that long ago they had an extremely popular podcast together? Nuts to think about, isn't it? Because culturally, that podcast really was just sort of like Muslim versus Jew, the podcast. And then, of course, the Israel-Palestine conflict came about, and much like a lot of American friendships, it kind of just disintegrated after that. Before we go into this, don't you think it is very strange that whatever that sort of this is what the media is talking about clip point throughout all of American politics, so it could have been abortion, it could have been gun rights, thinking about the amount of American families and friendships that are just completely torn apart by this. Can I just say, as an Australian, I'm really glad that we don't have that level of media that can kind of just keep enforcing these kinds of very, very stringent, no, there's not a room, no room. That kind of thing in Australia doesn't really happen purely just because we don't have the media ecosystem to get you to that level of belief. But being a purveyor of American media like the rest of the world is, you can definitely see how that happens. Anyway, sorry, that's neither here nor there. Let's just get into the dot points of it. So obviously there was the Leftovers podcast, yeah? And that is just completely left, hasn't it? That has completely kaput. There is no way that friendship is ever going to be repaired after that. Which honestly, you know, for what it's worth, in my personal humble opinion, kind of sad. Really, kind of sad. But anyway, those are the breaks. And so that happened. And obviously it was the Israel-Palestine conflict that really kicked it off. And that has completely disintegrated their...
I know.
interactions with one another, let's just say. And so then I think it got kicked up a notch recently by H3H3 releasing that content nuke on Hasan. Now, the next latest development obviously is that Hasan Piker is now saying, look, I'll come out and I'll talk to you and let's just sort this out. Man to man. And then H3H3 just said, like, you just watch your whole video and get back to me. Now, there is a self-help point at the end of all of that, and I will get to that. Having met Hasan Piker before, and looking at a lot of the internet commentary about him, I think it's very, very unfair that I keep hearing this point over and over, that he's an idiot.
Black and brown people are having consensual sex with white women, and vice versa.
I don't know, man. I talked to him for half a day. I can tell you one thing about him. He's extremely learned in the field of politics. He's extremely worldly as well, which is actually, you know, let's be honest, quite rare for an American. No offense to the Americans watching right now. Well, no, there is offense to it. There's no way not to be. I'm sorry, you just aren't. Anyway, he is, though. But his scope of knowledge when it came to polling, when it came to policy, when it came to the fact that he's able to talk about very specific policies, and even like California in the state, what the hell? That guy knows what he's talking about. Obviously, if you have a different viewpoint to him, you can still admit that, right? Surely. And then when it comes to Ethan, if I can say something nice about him, having never met the guy, but what I have noticed about him is whenever he is talking about one of these like drama situations or something like that, he seems to have quite a finger on the pulse of what the real underlying issue is. You know what I mean? He seems to be quite an emotionally intelligent man. He seems to be able to pick someone and just being like, yeah, they're that type of person. So anyway, let's just get to the nuts of this, yeah? Can I use that phrase? I don't know. Anyway, these are the nuts. These are the nuts. Obviously, I think that that is a microcosm of what is happening globally, which is that the internet is politicizing people more. And being a huge proponent of that and an absolute merchant in outrage culture, I understand fully the need to push that forward. I mean, that is just how the world changes now, is to basically make us all hate each other. It is an unfortunate byproduct, but I think that that greater good argument can be put into place. It is unfortunate, however, that means that, let's be honest, you watching right now, there are people you don't speak to anymore, and probably because of a Facebook post that you don't like. I mean, I've definitely done it in the past. I have severed friendships with people purely because they got a job at a place that I don't agree with. And then I was like, that's it. Somebody that I've been speaking to since high school. Nah, just that. Done. How could you ever do that? I'd never do it. And we all feel like that these days. Anyway, I thought that it would probably be a good use of your time, because this is a self-help channel, first and foremost, just in case you didn't know, sign up today. If we just talked about if you did want to not burn every bridge, or in Ethan's case, nuke it. If you didn't want to nuke it, which, you know, that's fine for them to do that because that's just great content for both of them. And on top of that, you know, they're big boys. They've got families, and Hasan he's a dog dad. I wonder if he is ever going to have kids. I wonder how giant they would be. I hope that he mates with a basketballer. Let's try and make a Goliath. But that's another goal. Let's just talk about if you do want to actually, you know, make a bridge for once. If you do have a friend, if you do have family that because of these hot button issues, usually in America, what are they? Israel, Palestine, abortion, guns. That would have to be of most relationships when it comes to this kind of stuff. Guess what? I was reading a really interesting study the other day that was about gun violence. So they were getting people that were pro-gun and anti-gun, if I can be stupid enough to put them in those categories. Obviously, they had more nuanced perspectives because they're really into this stuff. But anyway, they got them all into like this big school hall to discuss it because I think that this was about county gun laws or something. So they were all in there, anybody that was interested in it, and they got them into groups, and obviously there was just heated arguments, yelling everywhere, except for one group in the corner. And then they said, what the hell's going on over here? And it was extremely constructive, very civil, and they did come to different perspectives, and they did change their mind. Wow. Who'd have thought that actually having interactions with someone, as opposed to just having this screen there, and they'd just be like, F you, I like this image that's projected on screen better than this other image. When you are actually face-to-face with someone that has different views to you, it can be resolved. And the way that they did it was that there was this fireman who was sort of leading the group because he had that public servant gravitas to him of like, okay, Billy, now it's your turn to talk. I'm imagining that he went to AA for 20 years of his life. You don't need to know the rest of my life story, okay? Let's just focus on the guns for now. I've got some regrets. So anyway, they're going through the circle. What's going on? Why are you guys getting on? How are you changing each other's minds? No one else was changing anyone else's minds. Again, it's guns. This is grounded as your founding forefathers. That's how long ago that argument is. Anyway, they were asking him, how are you doing this? And he said, I've basically just trained everyone here to actually listen to the other person. Now, you understand this on an intellectual level, right? I mean, I am a preacher, I am not a practicer. I am a political commentator by trade. I am very versed to, if they say this, I'm going to say this. And then when they say that, oh, then I've got them in this corner, I'm going to really f them with that. That's just how your brain naturally works, which is another thing that I think Hasan has a very unfair advantage over Ethan with, which is like, you know, being a drama commentator is not the same as being a political commentator.
Yeah, I am being patronizing. I don't know who the f you are, and you're over here chirping all the way from f***ing London about Palestine and doing a both sides are f***ing fine type bullshit. Or you're talking about how you want to f***ing free Palestine, but also simultaneously, you know, both sides got a lot going on. Shut the f*** up. You don't know anything.
Hasan is battle hardened. He is a full-on Damn it, I forgot what the phrase is. You know, the really good... The really good Turkish soldiers back in the day. Juggernauts? I don't know what they were. They weren't juggernauts, whatever. He's one of those. Look, the thing is, when you are privy to that, obviously, there is no listening to anything. You are just thinking about getting points in, trying to get the other person to be like, yes, got him in a corner, owned. And yeah, that's mad for online content. But in real life, that's terrible for society, isn't it? He was doing the exact opposite of this. He was teaching everyone, fully grown adults, to sit there and say, look, you can say your piece, but first you have to relay what the other person was saying. So the competition changed in everybody's head from, all right, time to get in a point, and this point has obviously been given to me by the NRA or by the ACLU or whatever, and it's just a talking point, and we're just smacking talking points across from one another. That was it, right? Like, that's everybody else in every other group. That's politics in a nutshell, generally, online, isn't it? It's just, here's my talking points, chuck them out, forever. That's it. So this one was the exact opposite of that. This was, you repeat that person's talking point. If they are telling you a talking point, just repeat it. Now, what happens? Well, ironically, unlike America, disarmed. Yeah, no one was expecting that. No one was expecting to be actually listened to, that somebody could sit there and say, I don't know, for instance, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And then the other person will always say, yeah, but that's why you've got to get rid of guns so they can't do the damage. And that'd be the talking point back and forth. The person that was anti-gun would say to the pro-gun person, okay, so I just heard that you said that guns don't kill people, people kill people. And I'm like, yeah. Think about it. You've opened it up after that. It's a very strange thing that human beings have forgotten. And it makes you extremely charming as well. This is the other study on that. The most charming people in the world, the ones that you, when they enter a room, please talk to me. Please give me some validation. Please. Just let me bask in your glory. Those people all the time, what are they doing? I'll tell you what, the only difference is they are genuinely listening to the other person. And the way that you train that, the way that you show that you have listened to the other person, I mean, you hear this all the time in marriage counselling, don't you? I'm hearing that you're very upset that I don't do the chores on Saturday. I would like to do them on Sunday, however. The whole point is that you lead with rehashing what they said. And if that what they said was good enough, then he would say, all right, now you get to talk. That's all the fireman was doing in this interaction. That opened up genuine dialogue. They did come to conclusions. They did come to some formative policy in that county because of that simple action. It is something that we have all forgotten in the age of the internet. It's, if you want to win an argument, and not even that, right? Like, I think that this is the other thing that we forget about on the internet all the time. It's always just about winning arguments. It's never about outcomes. This is something that really angers me about politics. Everything angers me about politics, but something that really angers me about politics in Australia, I think, is when you look at any of the discourse online, it is just like, no, here's my talking point, and that's it. But no one seems to really care whether this is having any impact at all in the real world anymore. The way that you get real impact in the real world is to first let the other person that you are speaking to know that they have been heard. That's step one. It doesn't happen anymore. It's so rare. Now, contrary to that, I'd like to say, both on Hasan and Destiny's end, I'm sorry, let's not talk about that guy at the moment. Hasan and Ethan's end. You're just so used to saying those two names together, aren't you? But anyway, Hasan and Ethan's end, really, they're sort of just already at that point, aren't they? I mean, one of them is saying at the moment right now, I'm happy to talk. And then the other one is saying, just listen to my side of the story first, and then we will talk. It is sort of happening there. And I think that this is probably just because they are professional communicators. But I think a lot of the time, us mere internet peasants that are sitting by and watching the blood sport that it is, we tend to often forget that most of these problems that you are facing in life, in the real world, in your day-to-day life, look, you will probably never get 100% of what you want. But wouldn't you prefer to get 25% of what you want? 30? 15 even? Hell, you know what usually happens when you do this? You get 80% of what you want. That was pretty much what everyone felt like at the end of this, with this like new county bylaws that they were coming up with guns. Everybody got about 80% of what they wanted. When they really set aside their talking points and actually started listening to one another, they realized, oh, actually, most of us are fairly reasonable human beings. The differences that we have is in this is our line in the sand, we won't go past this. Those were actually a lot further back than what they originally realized. And the reason for that is once they felt like they were heard by the other side, that immediately got them away from just being, this is a threat. That's what's happening in the back of your mind. This other human being is a threat. This is an adversary. And so with an adversary, you don't want to get anything done. All of a sudden, when the other person listens to you, they're no longer an adversary. Someone that you disagree with, but they're just another person. Anyway, food for thought.